Alright guys, in this video we are going to continuously work on the section 7 6.2. We are going to start from problem 3 on page 368. Alright, so simplifying a product. So what is the simplest form of square root of 72x cubed y squared times square root of 10xy cubed? Guys, listen. We are having square root. There is invisible to them in the square. Since we are having even index, you can expect that you are going to have absolute value with it. Okay, so let's be mindful on that. Now what? Since we have the same index, I can multiply them all together. 72 times 10. And I have a x cubed here, and I have x. I have y squared, and I have y cubed. Alright? Now what? 72 times 10 is 720. I have x to the 4th power, y to the 5th power. So I'm going to put them all together. Now what? I'm going to do a process of breaking down into the all perfect square numbers. So first, I'm going to look at 720. How can I break into the 720 into the perfect square number? I starting with 10. So 10 and 72. 10 can be break into the 5 and 2. 72 can be break into the 36 and 2. 36 and 2. Now, what do we have? 5 and 2 is already done. And then 36 and 2, 36, I can write it down as 6 times 6. Alright? So, I would write it down that again. Here. I have 6 squared. And I have 2 squared. And I have a leftover 5, right? That's gonna be 720. Then, my next work is I'm going to write down x to the 4th power into squared. So I know that 4 is what? 2 plus 2. So x squared. And y, we have y squared. And y squared and your y left. Because you need to make a 5. 2 plus 2 plus 1 become 5. Now what? We are going to pull all the squares out, right? But this is the square root, so you are going to write down the absolute value around it. So 6 can be out, 2 can be out, so I already dealt with those two. Now x and x out, y and y out. Okay, and then that's it. Now, square root of, put all the leftovers, 5 and y. That's what I have here. Okay, so let me simplify within my absolute value, guys. So absolute value, I have 6 times 2, which is a 12, x squared, y squared, and square root of 5y. So, did you guys remember that? Once we are having the absolute value around it, and my exponents are both even numbers, which is x, it doesn't matter that what we have, x as a positive or negative. Your answer x squared is always positive and same as y. Because y squared, it doesn't matter y is positive or negative. Both of the answer y squared is always positive, which is 12 as well. So I don't really need to put the absolute value anymore because all the values, 12, x squared and y squared, all of them are already positive values. So I don't really need any absolute value. So you have to omit the absolute value this time. Now, put square root of 5y together. Alright, so that will be my simplest form. Okay, so I need you guys to work on Got It 3 by yourself and, check the answer after you solve this. Alright, got it, 3. So what is the simplest form of square root of 45 x to the 5th power y cubed times square root of 35 xy to the 4th power? Again, you are having both indexes positive, the even number, so you are expected to have absolute value around it. Now you're going to put all together 45 times 35 times x to the 5th power times x times y cubed times y to the 4th power. Here guys, 45 and 35. Rather, writing down the product of 45 and 35, I would break that into the find that what is going to be the common factor of them. So 45 is actually 9 times 5, right? And then 35 is 7 times 5. So from 9 times 5, I can put 3 squared and 5, which is a 3 squared and 5. And I already have a 5 here. So, 45 can be written as a 3 squared and 5. 35 can be 7 times 5. And now what? X to the 5th power times x become x to the 6th power. How many x squared with an x to the 6th power? I got x squared. How many? Cubed. Because 2 times 3 becomes 6. And then 3 plus 4 is 7. So you can make y squared cubed and your y left over. Okay, now what? You're going to simplify fully. So please try out to perfect square numbers. Then you need to put absolute value around it first. Now, 3 squared, it can be taken out. There would be 3. 5 squared taken out, there would be 5. X squared can be taken out so that you got an x cubed. Y squared you can take it out, there will be y squared. And then close it. That's 3, guys. And you have a square root of y. Alright, now we are going to think about it. So, 3 times 5, that become 15, right? And then leave as, we have x cubed here and y cubed here, and then the square root of y. So let's think about it. Your x is a negative number. Then x cubed would be negative number, right? What about y? Y is also a negative number. So if your y is negative number, negative times negative is negative. So you have a chance to have a negative on it. But what about, x? Here. But this answer is going to be a little bit more complicated because you have to go all the way back to think about your original question. Alright? So look. I have a 45x to the 5th power y cubed. So before you're starting on it, to think about the sign part, which is the absolute value part, you have to think about your x and y. Since square root 45x to the 5th power y to the 3rd power should be real number, which is positive number. So x and y, when you started it, they needs to non-negative numbers, because x and y, when you are determining on it, when you have a square root, x and y for those expression here, they needs to have non-negative number so that it would be defined. Because if you have a negative number within the absolute value, that would be not defined it. So 35x y to the fourth power. Y to the fourth power anyway, that is going to be the positive, right? So your x needs to be non-negative because entire 35x y to the fourth power needs to be positive. So x is non-negative. And then though, y, it doesn't really matter. But this time your y could be both. I know that the sign part is kind of confusing, right? Now, when you look at your left one, your x needs to be non-negative anyway because I already defined it as x is non-negative, right? So x, I can say this is positive, then y needs to be positive at this time. Why? This one is a positive that I want to make entire 45x to the fifth power y cubed. It needs to be positive. And this needs to be positive as well. So from those situations, I can conclude that my x and y both are positive. Both positive. Then when I apply that into my answer right here, since I mentioned it that if you are having the, odd exponent that you had to leave absolute value around it, but this time your x and y is already positive from the, beginning. I already talked about that. So I can conclude that I don't need absolute value this time anymore because their answers are already positive. Yeah. So I can tell you that section is tricky, especially when we are deciding that we are going to leave absolute value in it or not. That's going to be the trickier part. So we need to practice more on that section, okay? So, I'm going to wrap it up one more time to talk about the absolute value part. So, when we are working on the, this type of question, I know that you should know how to working on the factoring part, which is a prime factorization part. After that, you are going to think about the signs. So, it will be better for you that you just solve first, and after that, you're going to determine that you're whether you're going to leave the absolute value on it or get rid of it. So I hope you don't have any problem for doing the prime factorization up to the last part, 15x cubed y cubed square root of y. And then you always put the absolute value around it once you're having index 2. So check it out. And then you're going to looking at your x and y. So you need to, consider for both of it. So 35xy to the fourth power, since y has, even exponent, which is any case would be working. If you have a positive, if you have a negative, anyway, yours is always positive out. So you want to determine, which is you want to define 35y xy to the fourth power, your x needs to be positive. So you already confirmed that your x is positive, then apply onto the other expression. Also, 45x to the fifth power y cubed, you already said that your x is going to be positive. Then you wanted to make sure that 45x cubed y third needs to be positive so that you can determine that value within the radical, because we are always working on the real number this time. We don't think about the imagined number anymore. So your x is positive, then your y needs to be positive. So you confirm that both are positives coming out. So you are going to conclude that your answer lasts x to the third power y to the third power. They don't need any absolute value anymore. Okay? Alright, so this is a new concept for this section. I want not to move on problem 4. I'm just going to working on just problem 3 and got it 3. I'm going to assign the questions, practice this on a lot, so I want you guys to get this concept before we move on to the problem 4. Okay, so I hope this video helps you understand. We're going to see in the next video. Bye.